Go.
By the way, as Larry moves out of the way, knocking everything around, he's been the guy in your face last night, probably in your face again tonight. He's going to stay in your face. He's videoing this, and this will be, tell me if I'm saying this right, we're going to stream this over the internet, correct? On our website?
Correct.
Okay, so you'll have a copy of this as well. Okay, moving forward. Our next speaker was a frequent performer on the Xavier stage, and to no one's surprise, he's back this evening with us again. After 36 years as a commercial airline pilot, he retired from U.S. Airways. Currently, he is working part-time for JetBlue as a maintenance and test pilot. His background in stand-up comedy and impersonations, and was a professional Jack Nicholson lookalike for 15 years. I was going to say that, but my wife told me not to say that.
It's the hairline. Otherwise.
You'll see in a minute.
Yeah.
I have learned, talking about pilots, I learned that during his years as a pilot, he often did impersonations for the passengers on the plane, which begs the obvious question. Who was flying the plane? I've taken many trips. I have nightmares about the pilots falling asleep, let alone doing impersonations. And finally, he just completed writing a comedy screenplay. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Joe Belotti.
Thank you, Kevin. It's great to be here. I guess Jimmy Fallon had to cancel at the last minute, and I'm going to be filling in for him. And for those of you who don't know me, my name, Jose Jimenez. So I was selected to be your MC by secret ballot. Paul Rossi, apparently, they had a gathering at his house, and they deliberated for about 3 days. And then they finally blew the white smoke out of the chimney and said I had been chosen. So Paul called me and he said, I want you to be funny. And I said, well, how do you want me to be funny? He said, be an Italian Larry David. So with that in mind, I'm going to be rude, I'm going to be obnoxious, and I've asked Peter Nolan to maintain order as class beadle. And to my Xavier classmates and former faculty here tonight, I want you to know I'm going to be mentioning every one of you at least once, and by name. So please don't be offended. And if you don't like it, here's what I have to say about that. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. "50 years, what a milestone. It's unbelievable, isn't it? So we have 5 hours here tonight to reminisce for 50 years. So that's 10 years every hour. So I figure by about now you should be up to about 1988. And as I look around the room, I know what you're all thinking, secretly. You're looking at each other and saying, wow, I feel a hell of a lot younger than these guys look. I feel great, except I'm shrinking. I'm talking about my height. No, I'm shrinking. Every time I go to the doctor, I lose like a 1/16 of an inch. Every year. Now, for Ted Moores or for Harry Harrington, that's not a big deal. But the way I look at it, by the next reunion, I'm going to be about the size of Danny DeVito. You all look great, though, especially in the 10-year-old bio pictures you sent in. We were at the Red Raven last night, a lot of us. It was great for those of you that didn't make it. And as I saw guys parading in, Dick Downing, Ned O'Hearn, Frank Catania, Steve McGowan, Jim Mason, Mike Harrington, Dick O'Donnell, there was a trend. These guys all had hair. I was relieved when Dave Chandonnet and Ted Morse came in, though. I was hoping others like Squilanti and Matt McGuire were there, but they didn't show up. Hey, we all look a little different, there's no question about it. In fact, earlier tonight I proved it. I walked around the room and told everyone I was Dick Hennessy. I say, hey, you look great, Dick. Haven't changed. I see Joe Tedesco changed his nationality. He went from a dark-skinned Italian to a red-faced Irishman. Look at his bio. Terry Culhane is now 12 inches taller due to human growth hormone. And Mickey Conyer, if you look at his bio, he actually got younger. He's 50 shades of brown, and he still uses Butch hair wax. Frank Catania, in his group picture in Kenya, I believe it was taken in Kenya, he looks a lot like Lenny Kravitz. Jerry Corvino now resembles Kenny Rogers, and I understand later tonight he's going to be singing Islands in the Stream and The Gambler. Mike Squilanti and Fatty Curran are now in better shape than most of us, and I just heard that Squilanti competed on American Ninja Warrior on TV. As for me, I'm now follically and vertically challenged. I have trademark Italian bags under my eyes, and I have a scar on my forehead which I got from a skirmish with Whitey Bulger a few years ago. I've enjoyed reading all your bios, though. There were 85% participation in the bios, Terry told me. And that's pretty impressive. Of course, there's 15% that didn't send anything in. So would Mr. Bain, Callanan, Curran, Harrington, Joy, and Solos please see Mr. Hegarty for your grades and detention room assignments? There'll also be a remedial math session for Huddy Warren, Dan McIsaac, and George Logan for sending in too much money to the reunion, according to Kevin. George Logan. I don't think I knew him in school. The bios were really interesting, though. It's nice to see that 58% of the class has retired to a life of leisure and golf. Some retiring in their early 60s, and some even in their 50s. Steve McGowan at 58, Neil Walker 55, and Ted Moore's at 52. Now Steve now lives in beautiful Carmel Valley, California. And someone last night told me his place is kind of like the Ponderosa in the TV show Bonanza. I heard that Steve even hired Ben Cartwright's cook, Hop Sing. Neil holds a record of living closest to Xavier. He's about 1,000 yards. And I understand every morning he packs old Xavier textbooks into his backpack and walks to the school at 7 in the morning. Leaves the parking lot about 3 and walks back home. Mike Allen's bio caught my attention. Elsie's the very first one on the website because of the letter A. You thought your commute was bad? He commutes every day from New Hampshire to Thailand. He lives the furthest from the school, 8,323 miles. And he doesn't walk to school every day. Elsie's still upset we didn't hold this reunion at one of the local Subway shops. Hey, congratulations to newlywed Larry Corcoran. Where's Larry? He just got married last Saturday, for those of you that don't know it. And Larry has actually elected to spend his honeymoon here with us instead of with his wife. And how about Peter Redding, motivational speaker? That's pretty impressive, isn't it? Peter's taking us all out to the parking lot a little later to walk barefoot on hot coals. We had some educators in the class, including Mike Lally, John Durkis, Tim Neville. John and Tim both became principals following in the footsteps of the snake. 33% of the class served in the military. Thank you for your service. Even if it was because of a bad draft lottery number. 30% have been divorced one or more times. 30%. You guys obviously didn't pay attention in college in your investment and finance courses. And then were those in our class who were former priests or almost priests. Dave Chandonnet used to be a priest. John Durkis thought about becoming a priest. Jim Mason actually was in the seminary, but he thought he would be better served running through the streets of Boston dressed as a hooker. I noticed that George Riley, Terry Culhane, Kevin Ryan, and Hud Warren only list a P.O. box for their address in their bio. These are guys that don't want you looking up the price of their house on Zillow. And Mickey Conyer and Billy Boland don't list any address at all. These are obviously guys on the run. Then there are guys like Jack Donnellan who don't list phone numbers. Apparently the Grocery King doesn't want people calling him in the middle of the night to complain about expired kielbasa. Some guys like me came out of retirement to work again, just like Michael Jordan did. Others are still working with no end in sight. Brian Dowd, Kevin Queenan, Huddy Warren, Jack Donnellan, Fred Cummings, Andy Lineal, Bill Pfeiffer, and George Logan. Here he is again. Wait a minute, who's this guy Logan anyway? Was he even in our class? So I'd like to recognize a few people now. Some of this is repetitious, but bear with me. First, the two Jesuits in our class, Father Mike McFarland and Father Paul Holland. Father Mike, don't you think it's time to open up about your old girlfriends like Father Paul did? The lipstick expert, Paul Duffy, told me that back in the day you used to date Debbie O'Leary and Cindy Pfeiffer at the same time.
That's a challenge.
I'd also like to welcome former faculty members and guests. First, Breck Hosmer's favorite English teacher and not so favorite French teacher, Father James C. O'Brien, once again. Also, please welcome Father Henry J. It's All Greek to Me, Kane. I didn't know Father Kane that well at Xavier because he taught the elite honors group. Those are the people with the stars next to their names in the commencement program. 20 or so well-respected students, high intellects, the smart guys, the brainiacs, with names like McIsaac, Mason, Warren. Oh, sorry guys, wrong list. Names like McFarland, there we go, Holland, Monks, Naj, Giraldi, Totino, Burke, and Donovan. Not you, Sean. Then there were the rest of us, those not in the elite honors group. At Xavier, our group had about the same respect as steerage class passengers on the Titanic. Warm welcome to Mr. Jim Audio and wife Ellen. I credit Jim with teaching me German and inspiring me to go on to Holy Cross and become a German major. I've forgotten most of the German I ever learned, except there is one phrase, one useful phrase that you taught me that I remember, and when I travel through Germany, it's very, very useful. And here's what it is. Vielleicht ist es besser, wenn wir schieben den Wagen etwas weiter nach rechts. Perhaps we should push the car a little bit to the right. Very useful term.
First day class.
Also, I'd like to recognize one of the original three amigos of Murphy, Leonard, and Hegarty. Once again, Charlie Hegarty, along with his wife, Mary Frances. Charlie lives in California and traveled here with his wife and dog by covered wagon. He started the trip about 6 months ago. Charlie's the first person to read and critique my latest screenplay, and he's taken a solemn vow not to share any of the details tonight with any of you, for a 10% kickback. I especially want to thank the spouses and dates of alumni for coming tonight. Let's hear it for them. I have to tell you, you're all making a tremendous, tremendous sacrifice, ruining a perfectly good evening, having to listen to boring stories about a bunch of old farts you don't even know. Those were great years at Xavier, though, and I'm going to share just a few of my memories with you. Burgers, chocolate fraps, hot fudge sundaes, and onion rings at Hojo's. Watching airplanes take off and land from a place high above Hanscom Field we used to call Skyview. Maybe we weren't watching airplanes take off and land. Talking to Kevin Ryan and Brian Murphy about how great it would be to become astronauts. We didn't make the cut, so we had to become airline pilots. I remember driving my father's powder blue 59 Cadillac to the prom. My prom date was Carolyn Brooks, sitting right there, who was chosen queen of the prom. I ended up marrying her. Dick Hennessy brought Maureen McNeil. He ended up marrying her. And Mike Lowney brought Kathy Dwyer. Now,
Should have married her.
Kathy went on to become the president of Revlon, and Ted foolishly did not marry her. That is the first item on his coulda, woulda, shoulda list. Speaking of cars, how about all those big classic V8s in the Xavier parking lot? John Costello's black 57 Chevy. Huh? Jack Donald's 63 red Plymouth Sport Fury convertible. Which must have had a defect because the windows always seemed to be fogged up in that car. Neil Walker and I had twin 389 silver 65 and 66 Pontiac Bonnevilles, which, like in the movie Grease, we used to drag race up and down Route 2 before the police had radar. Nels Palm seemed to have a brand new Thunderbird every year, and there was another 57 Chevy owned by Bob Parsons. Ted Moores drove a 65 Chevy convertible with a 327, and George Logan had a 1966 cylinder Red Nash Rambler. I still don't think I remember George Logan. Wait a minute. Red Rambler. I drove in that car. He used to pick me up. George. His name was George, but it wasn't George Logan. It was George Lopez. It was George Lopez, like that famous Latino comedian. It's a shame he changed his name, because think about all the free room service he could have gotten over the years. And Logan, who changes their name and names himself after an airport anyway? I remember Mr. John Murphy hurling an eraser and several pieces of chalk across the room at Tony Martignetti for talking during class. Here, here, Martignetti, listen up. Or how we all tried in vain to figure out what the mysterious C stood for in Father James C. O'Brien's name, and we still don't know. How about watching Jack Donald, Paul Rossi, Mike Harrington, Jim Dyer, and Buddy Venn lead us to a basketball championship? Or our rector, Very Reverend John P. Foley, beginning every address to our class exactly the same way. If St. Francis Xavier were to come here today, what would he say? I think the first thing he would say to you is to tell you what good boys he thought you were. When we graduated in 1966, there were no laptops, Macs, iPads, iPhones, no texting, no internet, no Skype, no Facebook, Instagram, eBay, or Amazon. And man had not yet walked on the moon. Life was simple. As I wrap this up, I'd like to leave you with some very interesting facts about the year we graduated. The president was Lyndon Johnson. Gas was 32 cents a gallon.